unit, which is responsible for the performance management of Director Generals and heads of department across all government departments in the country. She has a Doctor of Philosophy in Leadership and Change Management, obtained from WITS. She also has a Master's in Business Leadership from the UNISA School of Business Leadership and is currently completing her second Master's at WITS on this very same topic that she's presenting today. She also has 2 honors degrees and a bachelor's degree. Dr. Mumsy will give you the next 30 minutes to give us your presentation, and then we'll use the last remaining minutes to take questions from the people that are available in the room and from the people that are online. And then we're just going to close with an update in terms of the activities that are going to be happening at Tairisha. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Masefo. This is Mumsy here. I'll just put my camera on for a little while, and then I'm going to share my screen. Thank you for the opportunity of presenting my research at this forum. I really appreciate it. I've just finished my master's on this topic and will be graduating on the 13th. So I just want to let you know that I'm not an expert in digital areas, so that's why I was interested in doing this topic. Okay, let me share my screen quickly. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
It's actually blank.
It's coming
up. Now it's coming up now.
Just came on.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Mumsy. Maybe you can just use the presenter mode on the bottom right-hand side of your PowerPoint.
Oh, okay. Presenter mode.
So there is that magnifying function just next to it. Not that one, just before that.
Oh, okay.
So that's your presenter mode function. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
There we go.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so this is my research topic, factors influencing the successful adoption of selected e-government initiatives in South Africa. So over the years, there has been a number of initiatives that have been developed. However, there's quite a few unsuccessful ones and a few successful ones. So I wanted to find out what makes the successful ones successful and what are causing the failures, as large sums of money are being wasted on the unsuccessful or partially successful e-government initiatives. A number of researchers have already come up with critical success factors. So there has been so many researchers coming up with these factors in various countries, for their own countries actually. So instead of reinventing the wheel, I decided to take some of these factors and see if it actually works in our country using 3 case studies. The case studies were from the SARS e-filing system, and then we've got 2 case studies at the Department of Home Affairs. It is the Smart ID card and the National Population Register. The National Population Register is actually a government-to-government initiative. But the other 2, the successful ones, is the government to citizens service. So the purpose of my research was to find out if the 8 critical success factors were found in the 3 case studies. I've chosen the Altameem model to guide me in this research. So the factors that I've chosen, they actually got about 24 factors. So there were certain factors that I felt were not relevant for South Africa because we are still a developing country. In terms of infrastructure, we're not where other developed countries are. So I chose 8. The first one is clear vision and strategy. Strategy is an important factor for e-government implementation. For any change, there must be a comprehensive strategy to encourage the organization towards the achievement of the goal. Then we also need top management support at all stages of the initiative. The support is critical throughout the implementation of any initiative. And it's important that top management make it known in public that the project is being performed and is a priority for government. There must be effective change management. It must take place. The new method of working and new ways of processing and performing tasks must be made important to the users. There must be adequate funding for implementation and maintenance. Funding is a requirement for any starting of any initiative, and it's the glue that holds any project together. There must be active awareness campaigns. It's pointless developing an e-government service for the people and not informing them. So people must be made aware of this. It must be citizen-centric. That is keeping it user-friendly and easily accessible to everyone. There must be adequate technical staff for any e-government initiative. It's pointless having e-government service and then there's not enough staff to maintain and keep it improved all the time. There must also be strong leadership support. The adoption of any e-government initiative requires a leader who can put it on the agenda, set it within the broader reform agenda, and who can make it happen. It's pointless having anything if the political leadership does not support it. These are the 3 e-government initiatives that have been selected. The SARS e-filing system. SARS introduced its e-filing system in 2001. The main aim of the e-filing system is to facilitate the electronic submission of tax returns and payments by the taxpayers and tax practitioners. This is a free service which allows the taxpayers, tax practitioners, and businesses to register free of charge and submit returns and declarations, make payments, and perform a number of other interactions with SARS in a secure online environment. Clouthy in 2012 stated that the electronic filing system of tax returns with SARS implemented is probably the most successful case of transactional e-government service in South Africa. I also felt the same. We also, the other successful one that I'd like to talk about is Smart ID card. The South African government stated that the Smart ID card was launched in July 2013 by the Department of Home Affairs. This replaced the previous green barcoded ID documents. The new ID documents have better security features and are supposed to be extremely difficult to forge, which is a major concern in South Africa. It has also eliminated waiting times and has saved time and money for people because sometimes people have to travel far and wide to get their ID cards. At one stage, the average turnaround time to obtain an ID book was 140 days. This was later improved to 45 days, and currently it's at 14 days, which is a major improvement from how it was. Then the not so successful one is the National Population Register. It's also at the Department of Home Affairs. So we have a highly successful one and a not so successful one at the same department. So I was wondering, how come you have one very highly successful and one not so successful? Because obviously they have a budget, they have the same resources, the same IT people. So I want to know what was causing this to be less successful. So that is why I chose two in one department. One is highly successful and one is less successful. So the National Population Register, it was established in 1982 to store biometric data and other data. It is a book containing the life story of every individual whose name is recorded in that register. It is a massive database recording the details of every living South African. Prior to the National Population Register, the Department of Home Affairs used manual records, which date back to the 1800s. The white paper on home affairs in 2019 stated that the integrity of the NPR, that is the National Population Register, depends on all the systems that feed into it, and it requires changes to be recorded. Its data needs to be secure, accurate, and reliable. However, the systems are connected to the NPR are not so adequately secure, and they are prone to errors, and they are not fully reliable. The systems are also not integrated. The methodology used for the study was a fully qualitative approach. Data was obtained from desktop research and interviews. Information was collected from reports, online articles, and from websites of the two organizations, that is SARS and the Department of Home Affairs. Purposive sampling was used. 10 officials were selected from the two organizations. The officials were from the IT unit, the business unit, and the project management office. Initially, I wanted it to only be the IT unit, but there was a problem getting participants to actually participate in this interview. So I approached the ethics office and asked them to expand it to the business unit and the project management office. The participants from SARS were actually more supportive. They were mainly from the executive team, whilst the participants from Home Affairs, unfortunately, they were not so keen on participating in the interviews, but I did manage, after a lot of pleading, that they need to take part, so I managed to get them to respond as well. Due to COVID, I conducted online interviews. I gave the questions in advance to the participants so they could prepare adequately, and it also saved time because they knew the questions that were going to be asked. The information collected from the interviews were analyzed, and the answers were mostly open-ended questions, and they were organized according to the 8 factors that I just spoke about just now. The research findings. So what I found is that SARS assisted the Department of Home Affairs with the smart card ID. So their technical staff, as well as the service providers, they went to the Department of Home Affairs, and so they all got together and they developed the smart card ID. So whatever challenges were experienced when the SARS e-filing system was developed, it was avoided this time around, which was actually a very good idea to do. It was also found that all 8 factors that were chosen for the study were found in the 2 successful government initiatives, that is the e-filing system and the smart card ID. However, only 4 of those factors were found in the National Population Register. It seems like it's the National Population Register is the legacy system. It's outdated, and also the people that were involved in the development, they're no longer in government. So there's new officials now who don't understand the software that was used and so on. So they need experts when it comes to maintenance. And they do have a budget. They don't do awareness because it's government to government, and plus, it's an old system. Um, but they're actually busy trying to replace the system with something more modern. Um, and let me go through each of those 8 factors. The SARS e-filing system and the smart card ID. They both fall under the modernization strategy, and the implementation was done according to that plan, which was really good. The modernization strategy has a new system for the replacement of the National Population Register. The National Population Register does not have a strategy in place because they're actually in the process of replacing it. The SARS e-filing system and the smart card ID, they both enjoy the support of top management, which when challenges were escalated to them to be resolved, the necessary resources were provided. The NPR, to a certain extent, it also has top management support, as it also has resources to remain operational. There were change management that was successfully undertaken for both the SARS and the smart card system. The NPR is the old system, so there's no change management that takes place. So both the smart card ID and the SARS e-filing, there is sustained change management. This, especially when it comes to the filing system season, they advertise a lot about it on TV. You'll probably see billboards on the way to from Pretoria to Joburg. So they do sustain the change management. There is adequate funding because you can see that both are successful. Even the NPR as funding, because it has to be maintained. It's an old system and it has to be maintained. There is intensive awareness campaigns for SARS and the smart card ID. And it still happens. Initially, when the smart card ID and the SARS e-filing system was introduced, there was quite a lot of public awareness campaigns that happened. Unfortunately for the NPR, there's no public awareness because it's an old system and also it's a government-to-government service. It's citizen-centric, the SARS e-filing system and the smart card ID, because it's user-friendly and efficient, and it takes so less time to actually use the system. The NPR does not cater for citizens' use. Excuse me. When it comes to technical expertise, there is plenty of technical expertise with the filing system and the smart card ID. But when it comes to the NPR, unfortunately, as I indicated, it's an old system and it's not easy to find technical expertise in that field. There's also a lot of leadership support because when it comes to both departments, Department of Home Affairs and SARS, there has been change of leadership over the years many times, but each new leader is so committed to the process and so committed to the initiative. So they actually continue from where each other left. So it helps a lot in terms of its success. In terms of the recommendations, what I found from the research, there must be technical staff who is abreast with technology, and there must also be transfer of skills from the service providers, because it's expensive to have service providers continuously, because you need maintenance done, you need enhancements. So it's important that the service providers actually train the in-house staff so that they can continue from where the service providers finished. There must also be a robust change management. And it's pointless having change management and it's not sustained. So it must be sustained. There must be continuous change management for the project to be successful. For any new government initiative, there must be awareness programs to inform people about its benefits. It's also essential that every new government initiative must have a strategy and a detailed implementation plan. So both the successful e-government initiatives that I studied on, they both had strategies and implementation plans that was followed through. There must be top management support to ensure that the necessary resources are allocated and there's funds available for the project. Strong leadership is needed so that uh, it can be spoken in parliament, and the advantages can be provided so that there's buy-in from cabinets and parliamentarians for the project. Um, any system must incorporate the needs of the citizens. And there's also a serious need to bridge the digital divide in South Africa, because we have urban areas where the rich and middle class people live. And then we have the rural areas where there's mostly the poor and previously disadvantaged people. And in those areas, we don't have the necessary infrastructure and so on. Even though government is trying to help to bridge the gap of the digital divide, it's still not where it's supposed to be. It's not only in South Africa, it's actually in all countries in the world. There's always rich and poor wherever you go. And funds must be made available for service providers for the continuous maintenance enhancements, because when a system is developed, it doesn't mean that it must stay as it is. There must always be enhancements. And plus, globally, technology is rapidly changing. So each e-government system needs to keep abreast with the changes that's taking place. Um, I'm at the end, so I come to my conclusion now. Um, the 8 critical success factors from Altameem, which was done in 2006, has been found in many other research articles and has been proven in this study that it does lead to success. And it would be really beneficial for government departments to use these 8 critical success factors. We're moving towards the 4th industrial revolution. And especially in South Africa, we have long waiting queues. People are fainting whilst waiting for services and so on. So to prevent all these, we need to use more e-government services. So there will be plenty of e-government services in the future. So it would be good to use this as a starting point to ensure that it leads to success. Some of the factors are ongoing, like change management and funding and awareness and so on, and does not end when the e-government system has been adopted. It is essential that South Africa keeps abreast with technology and e-government initiatives. Um, Thank you for giving me this opportunity once again. That brings me to the end of my research presentation.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Subramoney. A lot of interesting points actually coming out of your presentation. Particularly, it's interesting that you chose these 8 factors. A lot of the research that is coming up in terms of digitalization in the public sector, e-government, we see a lot of failures because departments are not adhering to some of those 8 points that you mentioned. The issue of critical skills, the issue of top management support, the issue of the digital divide. We always see those coming up as reasons for failure in other areas. I do have a couple of questions myself around this issue because it is an area that I'm interested in. I'm a cyber optimist myself. But I think at this point, I'll give a chance to colleagues to ask any questions. We'll start with colleagues in the room if you have any questions. All right, there doesn't seem to be any question in the room. I will go to colleagues online.
I have a question.
Oh, you do have a question?
So I think a lot of the things she pointed out were that change management is important, right? That people need to always keep abreast of what's happening. So for me, it's that if we are a government department who's supposed to be changing things, who's going to be sort of on our tails to ensure that we are sort of always trying to keep abreast of what's happening? Because she's sort of listed the what's it called a willingness from like top management, right, to do things. And she pointed out that someone had a system from 1982, right? I imagine that's why it failed, because there's no willingness to change to new platforms, to new ways of doing things. So who's going to be keeping them sort of on check to go like, things are changing. Why are you guys not changing with that? Are there sort of mechanisms to ensure that people are changing with the times? Or are we just like letting them just do their own thing and then fail and we just sort of watch them do their thing?
And particularly so, Dr. Subramoney, just to add, especially with the successes that you've seen, particularly with the smart cards and e-filing, if then that is the, I don't know what's the right word for it, if then that is the, I'll find the right word. If then that is the way that government wants to go, why then aren't other government departments sort of adopting, that kind of system to ensure that it works as well?
I think there's a question.
Dr. Subramoney, is she still there?
Yes, I'm still here. Can I answer the questions in the meantime?
Yes, please, and then we'll get to the colleagues online.
Okay, thank you for the questions. So the first question is, they do actually have a committee in DPSA, because DPSA is the Department of Public Service and Administration. They have a committee. I can't remember now. It's at the tip of my tongue. They have IT committee where all the CIOs from government departments, not all, some of the CIOs, I know for a fact that our CIO from the DPME is part of it as well. They attend these. So they are supposed to actually check on these e-government initiatives. I'm not sure if they do, but there is a committee. Because I'm not so technical on this, so I'm not sure exactly what they do. But I'm thinking they should be checking and advising departments on how to do things. And why aren't other departments following the same footsteps from SARS? It's I'm not sure actually, to be honest, but the Department of Home Affairs, the Minister from Home Affairs actually approached the senior leadership from SARS to get their support and to help in terms of the smart card ID. So any other department, any other top leader can actually approach the SARS because they are actually willing to help any department. So if the department don't approach them, then it's their loss, unfortunately. That is from what I know from my studies. Thank you.
I'm just saying it's very unfortunate that people who are doing a quality check quite voluntarily, or people who are assigned to do a quality check on here's how government is working and maybe it's not working well right now. And is the DPSA sort of in charge of watching over everybody to sort of see that people are working all right? We need to be establishing new departments that sort of ensure that there's change management happening across government, right? And people are keeping abreast of what's happening. Is that something we need to be looking into going forward? Yeah.
And I mean, often you will find that monitoring and evaluation are a problem.
Yeah.
Within certain government departments, and the whole issue of governments working in silos, not helping each other when the data is actually there, that in itself could be a problem. We've got a couple of colleagues with questions online. I see Professor Temba, I see Haften. How do we facilitate that?
Okay, can I come in?
Yes, you may.
Yeah. Thanks, Mumsy, for a very interesting presentation. Looking forward to see the actual report when it is available. I find it interesting that you talk about SITA as an institution that provided a lot of support to Home Affairs. Did your research establish why a structure like your SITA, which is supposed to be providing or leading in the e-government space in the public sector, from an infrastructure and systems point of view, did you find that they played any role at all, or Home Affairs chose SARS because SARS had a very successful project implemented there? So that's one question. The second question is, I'm still not clear why your research is finding that in one department, two projects are implemented, one successful, one project not successful, the NPR. What could be the reasons for that? If it's two projects happening in the same department, were you able to get an understanding of why that was the case? Thank you.
Dr. Subramoney, you can actually answer those questions, and then we'll go to Haften after that.
Thank you, Dr. Mseko. It was done through service providers. So that's why they did not get assistance from SITA. And because it was so successful with the SARS, they just went with that approach. So I didn't really find out why they didn't approach SITA, but I was assuming that because it was a very successful approach, they used the service providers and they went according to how SARS had done it. And then in terms of the two projects, the NPR, that is the National Population Register, it's a legacy system. It's very old, and they're actually in the process of replacing it. So that is why it's not as successful, because it's not a new project. So in future, I mean, maybe for future research, they should be looking at another recent one instead of a legacy system that is the government to government service. I don't know if I fully answered your question there.
Okay, that's fine. I'm happy with that. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Then we'll move to Haften.
Thanks for that, Maxwell, and thanks, Mumsy, for the presentation. Full disclosure, I was the supervisor of this project, so I feel I know it quite well. So therefore, I'm going to ask you a question that goes beyond your research, but I hope you'll allow me. No, I'm really curious about to what extent you feel that the findings and your research is limited to South Africa, And to what extent, or what parts of your findings do you think, or do you believe are applicable to other countries in the continent or even beyond? You did mention that the 8 factors there have been found to kind of like hold also in other contexts. But I'm just curious about your reflections on like, yeah, how much of what you're finding is sort of South Africa specific, because there are things about the South African public sector and the political system that are quite unique, but there are also things that are similar to other countries. So yeah, any thoughts on that, reflections? I think that would be interesting.
Thank you, Dr. Hafton. Yes, okay, maybe we don't have the technical skills like other countries. The developed countries obviously have much better technical skills. They have better infrastructure. They have more budget. So it's much better for them in all ways. Developing countries, so this one, the 8 factors that I've chosen, it should be applicable to most developing countries, because when I looked at some of the other articles, they have very similar problems to South Africa. So I think our problems that we have in South Africa, it's similar to other developing countries, and we are vastly different from developed countries in the world because they have so much better than us. They are so far ahead in terms of everything. Yeah. So that's what I can think of, Dr. Afton.
Are you satisfied, Hafton?
Yes, maybe just one follow-up question, and I do apologize. I can see other hands went up. When you say developing countries, are you thinking of developing countries in the continent, or are you thinking of Brazil, India, kind of like typical comparisons with South Africa? Maybe just if you could clarify that.
Dr. Hafton, it's not only in our continent, because when I was looking at articles, it's also throughout the world, the developing countries throughout the world. They talk about the digital gap. They talk about a lot of similar things that we have in South Africa, that we have, it's a problem in South Africa. So I don't say it's limited to our continent only. Thank you, Dr. Hafton.
Okay, I see some more questions. Do you have?
Sure. So I think quite similar to what Hafton was talking about the limits of the research just being on in South Africa. For me, it's like obviously she's compared, SARS and Home Affairs and sort of spoken about them borrowing from each other and learning from each other. Are we seeing that? I mean, I know the research is very just limited to those 2 departments. Very interested if she was interested in looking at other departments who have implemented e-government stuff, and whether or not they follow those 8 points, right? Other successful projects, do they follow those, or are there anomalies in the research, if at all she went outside of just those 2 departments? That's my thing.
Do you want to answer that, Dr. Subramoney?
Yes, I'll answer it. No, unfortunately, I made my research quite narrow. I think it's suggestions for future research to look at more departments, not departments per se, but more government initiatives. That will be much better. Not to say that we have a lot of successful ones. We have just a handful of successful ones, but it would be good to have a look at those as well. Thank you for that suggestion.
All right, thanks. Professor Temba, do you still have a question?
Yeah, hopefully the last one for this afternoon. Mumsy, your topic is about factors influencing successful adoption of e-government, and you used ID, the smart card, as one area that you looked at. But is our ID really smart? In other words, it was the only success that you mentioned with regard to the ID was that reducing the time it took to produce it from, I think you said 140 days to about 14 days now to get the card. But the card My sense is that it's simply for identification purposes. There are no other functions that they have been allocated to the IDs card, and yet we're calling it a smart card. Is it really smart?
I would say that it is smart because it's designed in such a way that it prevents forgery, because with the ID, the previous green book that we had, there was a lot of forgery and corruption and so on. So this one has some unique security features, and it's like, I wouldn't say it totally taken fraud away, but it minimizes frauds, especially in terms of the security, and you have various other features. So I think that helps a lot in terms of keeping our country a little bit better and safer from fraudsters. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, are you satisfied, Prof?
No, I'll take the answer. I'm happy. Thank you.
Okay. Just one more thing that I'd also just like to add to that. In terms of when you were speaking to the IT managers and stuff, were there any concerns about cybersecurity threats and threats of human sort of interference in the systems of government? Because ultimately, I think one of the reasons we're moving to online services is to try and reduce the impact of corruption and fraud.
There's always that threat of cyber invasion and so on, but we didn't go deep into that, and I don't think they would have wanted to talk about it, because in terms of security, and they were quite like, there were certain questions I could ask and certain questions I couldn't ask. So in terms of cybersecurity and stuff, I didn't ask them that, and I think it would have been things that they can't talk about. But every government department, and no matter what service it is, there's always that issue of cyber security. And we do have the minimum information security standards, which helps a lot in that. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Doc. My colleague Zibu has a comment.
Yeah, thanks, Mumsy, for the presentation. I think from my end, I would like to go back to Prof. Temba's comment just now around the smart IDs. I actually had the same sentiments around. I'll give an example of the Zimbabwean passport. They recently changed it to an e-passport. So one would have thought that it would be something that goes online when you cross the border and things like that. But I think the moment you still go to print, there's nothing digital about it. So the passport still has paper. The bio page is the only one that looks like a South African smart ID. But so I'm keen to see what the developments are, because the other interesting thing here was that there was a collaboration between SARS and Home Affairs. So part of what I want to hopefully do research on going into the next year is finding out how the South African government caters for foreign nationals who are in South Africa legally. So you have a work permit, study permit, whatever kind of permit you have. So if we're saying we're going digital or a citizen centralized approach to e-government services, would that then incorporate foreign nationals? And how best can they do that? Maybe issuing like a temporary 13-digit that is aligned to a visa and the dates that are issued to that particular visa and things like that. I think for me, that would serve as some sort of initiative, a digital or e-governance initiative that both addresses the issue of providing services in a digital age for South African citizens, but also accommodating foreign nationals who are in the country legally. So it's an interesting research to see. I had quite a few questions, so I'll reach out to you to find out if you had like your interviews with Home Affairs, because I also know it's difficult to get Home Affairs if you have questions related to some of these things. Yeah. So it's quite interesting, and thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Any more questions, colleagues in the room? Oh, one more question, yes?
Access of these platforms and these technological advances. So it's great that the government has all these places, but not everybody has access either to the technology or smartphones or data or internet. So that's another issue that we have to deal with, and also the adoption rates. I mean, the Home Affairs lines and the SARS lines are still very long when you go to today. If these are being implemented and are actually working well, how do we get people to adopt these processes and new technologies and also have access to them easily?
Your response, Doc?
I didn't hear it very well because there was a lot of breaks there. But I'm thinking that there was a question on how do we get people to adopt it and to use it. Am I correct?
That's correct. That's the crux of it.
Okay, so with SARS, they have continuous training programs. On the website, they have a lot of online manuals. They said they even have like kiosks in the malls. Or it could be home affairs, I'm not sure. But one of them, they have kiosks in the malls and they help the people. So there's various ways of getting people to use it. And the awareness programs also helps a lot. So, but the training and development, they are very good with it. They even have training and development units in those two departments, especially at SARS. It's very well staffed as well.
All right.
And the smart card ID, yes, with the smart card ID, they actually go to the rural areas. They have mobile vehicles that go to the schools in the mobile areas, and they assist the students there of a certain age to get their IDs because they need their IDs for the exams. So there's a lot of things that they are doing to get people to use those systems. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Doc. Any further questions, colleagues? Yeah, thank you for an insightful presentation. Obviously, you know, it won't have all the answers because this is a big and ongoing problem, especially dealing with issues of the digital divide, issues of training people with ITC skills. It's an ongoing process that government needs time to actually find its feet, and also given our legacy problems as a country, it'll take, I can imagine it'll take a while to address some of these issues. But thanks for that presentation. In the absence of any further questions, colleagues, I'll hand over to Zibu to sort of give us an update on activities at Tairisha.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Masewa. I just have a few updates on the activities that we've had throughout the year, but I think in every episode we've had for the Lunchbox series, we've been giving updates. But our latest one is that on the 20th of November, we launched our Tairisha Working Paper series, which was sponsored by the Hansaito Foundation. So we do have that up on our website. I'll share the link when we just close out with the newsletter for the year for people to access that. And then another update is the preparations for the ISCAP conference that the School of Governance will be hosting with Tairisha in partnership with different government departments, particularly I think the DPSA and the United Nations University. So those preps are underway, and look out for more information around that before the close of the year. And then the other update I have is the appointment of a new member at the CTIN team. I think they'll be starting in January, but we'll be able to give everyone details when we come back for our first episode for 2024, which will be in Feb. And then last but not least, we would like to thank everyone for participating, and to all our presenters for taking the time to prepare and being part of this. It has been an interesting and growing community. So we look forward to more presentations, more engagements for the year 2024. I think that's it from my end. I would maybe ask if Halden has any updates on his end. If not, then thank you, colleagues.
Maybe just to add, thank you, Sibo, just to add that we, on the 23rd of November, we also ran a policy dialogue with Ushahidi in Nairobi in Kenya, specifically focusing on how digital technology is enhancing electoral integrity or undermining elections in Kenya, focusing specifically at Kenya. This is a little spin-off from the working paper series, but we are planning to do follow-up activities, again, focusing specifically on electoral technology and electoral integrity in the continent. So more to follow next year. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And last but not least, we definitely do need to acknowledge the presence of our head of school, Prof. Themba Masego. Thank you so much for joining us, Prof. I don't know if you have anything to add on your side.
Hey, the other Maseko is talking now, but anyway, thank you very much for. I think you've done great work. I'll try and attend most of your sessions next year, but I've really enjoyed the chat. Mumsy, congratulations and well done on your research. Hope to see you soon. But it's an interesting conversation. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Dr. Maseko.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Right.
Mumsy. Thank you, colleagues, for joining us. I think this is the end of our session. These will be available on our website for anyone who wants to go back and listen to some of the parts that they've missed throughout the year. Thank you so much, colleagues, and have a good day further.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.